Riri was first introduced in the Invincible Iron Man Volume 3 Number 1, when Tony Stark makes mention of a 15-year-old who had reverse engineered his technology in an inner monologue. Growing up in the prime of the superhero age and being inspired by the genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, 15-year-old super genius Riri Williams resolves to follow in his heroic footsteps, inspires to build her own mechanized suit of armor, and she joins the crime-fighting vigilantes under the pseudonym Ironheart. A quick summary of Riri is that she was discovered as a prodigy at a very young age. Riri Williams was determined to be an astronaut until her life was forever changed by an act of violence. And later, when Tony Stark could no longer be Iron Man, Riri stepped into the role after building a high-tech suit of her own. But let's further break down the life of Demetrius Riri Williams. Riri grew up in the South Shore neighborhood of Chicago, Illinois, living with her sister Sharon and their mother Ronnie, and their stepfather, after the death of her father Demetrius, her namesake. When Riri was 5 years old, behavioral problems led her parents to consult a child psychologist. A series of tests showed that she possessed a super genius level of intelligence. Riri's level of intelligence caused her to retreat inside her own mind and become an introvert. She met her only friend, Natalie Washington, when she was 10 years old, after Riri caught Natalie's attention while working in her open garage on some new inventions meant to hopefully help superheroes one day. A year after that, Riri was given a scholarship to MIT. However, tragedy struck Riri when she was 13 years old. While having a picnic at Marquette Park, Riri, her family, and Natalie were caught in the line of fire when a drive-by shooting hit some bystanders. Even though Riri was unscathed, both Natalie and Riri's stepfather were hit by stray bullets and unfortunately passed. Riri Williams was a brilliant 15-year-old student studying at MIT when she dared herself to build a high-tech suit of armor just like Iron Man. Working in her dorm room with parts she borrowed from labs around campus, she soon succeeded. However, when security caught notice of her suspicious activities, Riri decided to don the suit of armor and fly away. After flying around the country for a while trying to get the hang of her suit's flying capabilities, Riri intercepted a couple of inmates escaping from the New York State Penitentiary. She managed to stop the speeding truck they were using as an escape vehicle, but at the cost of her armor's integrity. Riri eventually returned to her house to keep working on her suit, much to her mother's dismay. After learning of Riri's accomplishments, Tony Stark visited her and chose to endorse Riri's desire to become a superhero. Realizing, however, that she needed an artificial intelligence to make the most of her armored suit, she brazenly asked Stark for one. He was intrigued, but the AI was exceedingly expensive. Soon, the events of the Civil War II took his attention away, and Iron Man was incapacitated when the conflict boiled over. Still, Stark recognized that Riri was a kindred spirit and the future of superheroes, and of course, as Tony Stark would, he planned ahead. He had created an advanced AI constructed of himself to help her while he recovered in a coma. Riri finally had the AI she needed and her suit was complete. Determined to find a superhero name more fitting than Iron Girl or Iron Maiden or any one of those very sexist terms, Riri decided on Ironheart to honor her fallen loved ones. Riri Williams is an engineering prodigy with her super genius level intellect. Her armor is on par with Stark's own advanced suit, and she has his digitalized consciousness as an AI of Tony Stark to teach her and mentor her how to use it best. Thrusters in her hands and feet give Ironheart the power of flight. Explosive repulsor grenades, laser beams, precision missiles, and so much more are stored in her arsenal, designed and built by Riri herself. After her suit was destroyed by Thanos, Riri redesigned Ironheart 3.0 with a magenta and black design distinct from Iron Man's classic red and gold. The Champions, a young team that included Miles Morales, Kamala Khan, took on an early interest in Ironheart. Not one to make many friends, Riri was nervous about joining their ranks at first, but she fit in quickly. Her adventures as part of the team took her around the world, to space, and even to another dimension. Her inventions and quick thinking made her an invaluable member of the team. She struck out on her own for a short time and returned to MIT, where she constructed a new AI and design based on the friends she lost. But a new law prohibiting teens from being superheroes led her back to the Champions as they navigated the new normal life together. When Ironheart returned to Chicago in her solo adventures, mystical villain Midnight Spire took an interest in her. He offered her a place in the Ten Rings, not to be confused with Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. This was a global mercenary organization. Riri outright refused. She eventually accepted the offer from MIT to have her own lab, and she continued to develop a proper AI for her armor with newfound resources. After an incident occurred while giving a tour of this lab to foreign visitors, she received an alert for unusual police activity that prompted her to investigate. This led to a confrontation with the villain Clash, who gave her a token of the 10 rings after his defeat, acknowledging her villainous potential. This greatly troubled Riri, until she was surprised by her friend Xavier King with a FaceTime call. After a long conversation, she was shocked to see that the AI that she had been developing from scanning and compositing her brainwaves and memories was complete, and had taken the form of an aged-up Natalie, her long-dead best friend. Natalie is born, or Neuro-Autonomous Technical Assistant and Laboratory Intelligence Entity. Riri and her new AI return home to Chicago to investigate the disappearance of her childhood friend, Deja Hamilton, and her mother, and Xavier. Pursuing the lead led her to the 10 Rings ambush, and further investigation allowed her to finally confront Deja, who, it turned out, was being held hostage by a 10 Rings agent known as Midnight's Fire. He would later confront her in her garage and explain that he sought the ancient wellspring of power and envisioned Riri joining him on this journey. Riri again refused and was defeated in a short scuffle afterwards. After tracking Deja to the warehouse where she and numerous other children had been held captive by corrupt politician Thomas Birch, she was able to rescue her and the children, as well as realize Midnight Fire was using the politician as a pawn. Several days later, she dropped out of MIT to establish a new base of operations by purchasing a studio in Chicago with money she got as a reward for uncovering the Birch conspiracy, as well as from selling a patent for the device she used to track down Deja. Eventually, she was asked by Miss Marvel to investigate the disappearance of Miles, who, during her prolonged absence from the Champions, had quit the team, breaking the promise he had made to her. She resolved to find him and once again showed a proclivity to stalking by using his cell phone data to ascertain his last known location, much to Natalie's amusement. Once there, they discovered that he was the subject of a temporal experiment by the Tank. They were able to subdue him before they finally reconciled over Miles' exit. Later on, while giving Nadia a tour of her lab, Chicago became overrun by zombies, the source of which Riri was able to identify as the nearby Midway Airport. The group quickly realized a villain known as Eclipse was responsible for the outbreak, and Riri stopped the outbreak by subduing her. Engaging the 10 Rings, recognizing the symbol of Eclipse's head as being part of the 10 Rings, Riri realized that she needed magical assistance and flew to New York to consult the one and only Dr. Strange. Against his better judgment, having reservations over the damage such a quest driven by hubris could do to Riri, as it has done to her icon Tony Stark in the past, Strange was able to show her that the wellspring of power was located in Wakanda. Riri then sought Tony's help in gaining passage to Wakanda, where she met with Shuri, and despite a rocky introduction, was able to help her dispel an invasion of shadow creatures that were leaking out of the wellspring. After being met by Silhouette, who was on the same journey as them to stop her twin brother, Midnight Fire, the three of them made their way to the wellspring, where they encountered yet more shadow creatures, defeating them with the help of Okoye, who had tailed there with them. Riri shows Shuri and Silhouette the wellspring's location, and the four of them gained access to the wellspring, where, thanks to Silhouette, they were able to discover the 10 Rings in the process of reopening the wellspring, among whom were Midnight Fire and Eclipse, as well as Tomoe and their leader, Dune, who revealed himself to be Riri's biological father. They were discovered and apprehended by the 10 Rings, but Riri initiated a battle for the key of the wellspring when she discovered herself as Dune's daughter. Using PIM technologies gifted by Nadia, she was able to obtain the key, but fell into the wellspring, where she had an epiphany that revealed the truth behind her father's disappearance and bestowed her augmented power, which she used to overpower the 10 Rings and force them to retreat. Days later, the heroic efforts of herself and Silhouette were recognized by Wakanda with the Circlet of Bast, its highest honor. And Shuri let her know that there would always be a place for her in Wakanda if she ever wanted one. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Riri Williams in the upcoming Black Panther 2. Let me know if there's anything more about Riri Williams you would like me to explain. And as always, make sure that you like this video, and if you'd like to see more videos, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Until then, stay geeky, everyone.